Yo, check it out. Here's what you're gonna need for the build. I'm gonna quickly go over the gear, then check out expertise, and then move on to abilities. First off, you got your razor plate. Then we got two defensive aspects. We're gonna have our fury generation while at maximum, giving us extra fortify. Then we're gonna come down to our disobedience. Everyone knows how disobedience is. Once you get up to 100 stacks, you got 50% damage reduction. All right, checking out the offensive aspects, we're going to our gloves. On our gloves, we're gaining thorns whenever we're berserking. Heading on down to our two-handed mace. Now here, what we're doing is every time we receive thorns damage, we have an 80% chance to basically do like an AoE thorns to everything around us. So you want to pump that up as high as you can. If you can get it to 80%, great. If you can't, get there as close as you can. Using two swords on this build. So our first sword, we got the Hammer of the Ancients quaking out. Get that as high as you can. Over here, whenever we deal damage while berserking, we're going to inflict bleed damage on top of that. And I'll explain that in a second. On our second two hand, we're doing 80% damage to stun enemies. We're stunning a lot, so that's just straight up 80% multiplicative damage. Then on our amulet here, we're dealing 29% multiplicative damage depending on our primary resource. Meaning that the higher it is, the higher you get to that 29% multiplicative damage. For our utility aspects, our first ring, whenever we do a shout, we're generating more fury. Our second ring, whenever we do a shout, we're reducing the cooldown of our furies. For our boots here, whenever we deal direct damage while the enemy is bleeding, we got a 29% chance to stun them for 2 seconds. Now, your thorns do not do direct damage, so you would never stun anything from thorns damage alone. However, since they are bleeding, you're doing any other attack, like our chains or our hammer of the ancients or our basic lunge, you do have that chance to stun. And since we're berserking all the time with this, you have that bleed going out, and since they are bleeding already, doing that damage will have that chance to stun you. You're going to stun a lot. Now for our gem slots and our weapons, we're going to use emeralds. Our emeralds are giving us critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. For our armor, we're also using emeralds for the thorns. Now, however, if you are having trouble surviving with the thorns from your emeralds, you can swap those out for sapphires and you'll get damage reduction while you're fortified. For our rings and amulet, you're going ahead and put in skulls for the increased armor. For our expertise, we're using two-handed axe. We're going to use that for the 15% multiplicative increased damage to vulnerable enemies. For your basic skills, you can go one or two routes. I went with lunging strikes and enhanced lunging strikes. If you're having trouble with survivability or you just want more thorns, you can go the flay route and go up to combat flay. Here you're going to have way more thorns and you're going to have your damage reduction. Now if you do go to combat flay, drop 1 point from Hammer of the Ancients. If you're going with the lunging strikes, you're going to put 5 points of Hammer of the Ancients and you're going to go Furious Hammer of the Ancients. Either way, you're going to go this route with both of them. On the defensive skills, we're grabbing both shouts. For the rallying cry, we're going to go with tactical rallying cry. For the challenging shout, we're going to go ahead and go with strategic challenging shout. We're going to put 3 points in toughest nails, grabbing 1 point of outburst so we can get down to toughest nails. And we're also going to put 3 points in imposing presence, and that's just for the 15% multiplicative additional maximum life. You could change that out for something else if you like, but that does make you a little bit more tanky because you have more life. Going on down to our war cry, we're going to go ahead and grab that, and we're doing mighty war cry. Putting 3 points in booming voice, 2 in raid leader, and 3 in guttural yell. We're going to go ahead and put 3 in pit fighter, 3 in no mercy, and 2 in exposed vulnerability. And that's just so that when we do our steel grasp here, we go and start smashing things with our hammer of the ancients, and we're getting vulnerable 100% of the time by doing that. Grabbing 1 in hamstring, just so that you can have that slow utility there. You only need 1 point. As far as ultimate skills go, we're going to do 2 in heavy-handed, 3 in wallop, and 3 in concussion. I wanted to get a third one in here, but had to sacrifice a point. Now, for Unbridled Rage, you already know what that is. So moving on to our Paragon board, we will be using 3 different boards. Those boards are Flawless Technique, Weapons Master, and Warbinger. For our glyph sockets, we're using Territorial, Exploit, Revenge, and Martial. So I'll go ahead and show the route that I took and show you why I took these glyphs. For Territorial, it's real simple. Barbarians are up close. This is going to allow you to do more damage and take less damage from your enemies. We're going to go ahead and look at Exploit. With that, you're just straight up Whenever you hit an enemy for the first time, they are vulnerable for 3 seconds. No matter what, you can refresh that every 20 seconds. On top of you using your steel grasp to apply more vulnerable. So it's just a constant chain going on with that one. Moving over to revenge. For revenge, this is good because you're giving out thorns damage, but you're also increasing your total damage from every source from them being hit with thorns. So the more thorns they get hit with, the more damage you do, up to 8 times for 10 seconds. And that's going to be 8% multiplicative damage. So if the enemy takes thorns 8 times, now you're doing 8% more multiplicative damage for 10 seconds. And every time they take thorns, it's going to refresh it over and over again. So look at that as just a straight up permanent increase to damage. And at our last one, we have Marshall here. And the reason for Marshall is the same you're using a lot of other Barbarian builds, and that's just to get your shouts back quicker. So more shouts, the harder you hit, the less damage you take, and the more fury you're building. It's as simple as that. As far as the boards go, the most important board is Warbinger. The other two boards could probably be swapped out or, do what you like with those. Now, Warbinger, the reason why it's most important is because you're gaining more fury. The more fury you have, the more damage you're going to do for that single target of Hammer the Ancients. Now, it's doing another thing where you're using your Hammer the Ancients. Every 75 fury you spend, you're going to gain more fortify. So the more fortify, you're going to do more damage and you're going to take less damage. The reason you're using this Hammer of the Ancients to even begin with is for your single target damage. Your Thorns aren't going to kill any bosses or anything. So you have your Hammer of the Ancients to hit them with that big burst damage and get rid of them quickly. And with that, we reached the end of the video. If you guys like the content, you like the video, you like what I'm doing with the channel, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe. And don't forget to put your feedback down in the comment section. I appreciate all of it, and thank you for watching. Oh, and I forgot one more thing.